Hi guys, let's take a look at our friend the Batman. Essentially, the Batman has been enduring for many generations, and we've seen many incarnations of this character. So we're going to take a look at some of those incarnations in this video. One version that I like to do is I like to make him with the black cowl. It does give a nice contrast between the gray and the black. It's a version that I've seen used in the comics a few times, but not that often, strangely enough. And holy crap, does the black look nice on the costumes in this universe online. You see it used a lot by a lot of players. Black and red is a popular choice. Seeing how the contrast between the black and the red really stands out. So the black really looks nice, which is why I kind of like this version of the Batman. For quite a long time in the 70s and in the 80s, this is pretty much the color scheme the Batman had. Although we're missing the yellow oval around the bat, but what can you do? This is as close as we can get. And then during the 90s, they've started making the blue of the Batman costume more dark blue. And even we can see that even in DC Universe Online. The Batman version we have in DC Universe Online is pretty much using the dark blue color scheme. That was popular pretty much towards the 90s, towards mostly the end of the 90s and early 2000s. And speaking of the 90s, I tried to recreate the Azrael Batman. Essentially, there's a period of time when Batman was replaced by this character called Azrael. It wasn't a very good period, but some people, I guess, have fond memories of that time. Although it did show us some of the worst costume designs out of the 90s. Essentially, this character pretty much had all the tropes that the 90s characters had at the time. And of course, in more recent years, we had the new 52 Batman, which can be easily recreated using the Stalwart Defender suit. Uh, Mostly because at the base is the new 52 Batman costume and the new 52 Superman costume are pretty much the same costume. And more recently, we had the Bat God. Essentially, there was the Dark Side War in the pages of the Justice League, and one of the effect was that all the Justice League members somehow gained the powers of the New Gods. In the case of Batman, I think he gained the powers of Metron, and he had this kind of neat looking black suit with the white lines. That was kind of cool. The pattern isn't quite right with this costume, but it's as close as I could get with the styles we have. And next we have the Flashpoint Batman. Ironically enough, the best emblem for that look is the circled wing because we can mimic the red moon that the emblem had on that costume. Then we're going into the realm of the new 52 Earth 2 Batman. The look didn't quite look like that. Essentially, it didn't have all those pouches, but it's the only look I could find that had essentially the Earth 2 Batman in the new 52. The emblem was kind of cut off on both sides with the look of the costume. It's the only look I could find that was kind of mimicking what was happening on that costume. But the previous version of the Earth 2 Batman only lasted one issue, and then the Batman sadly was dead. But then we had another version of the Batman. There was this whole mystery around who this new Batman was. But then it turns out it was Thomas Wayne, same as with the Flashpoint Batman. I guess someone thought it was a good idea and tried to use that idea again with the Earth 2 Batman. Then there was this sort of armored Batman look on Apocalypse. That kind of sort of looked like that. I probably should have gone with a full face mask, but now what can you do? It's not a bad look per se. We had many versions of the Batman costume that pretty much went all black, with sometimes a few color spots here and there to give a bit of contrast to the look. And then there was this other version of the Earth to Batman, which at that time was, I think this was supposed to be Dick Grayson, who became the Batman somehow. And it had all those weird yellow yellow spots or yellow patterns all over the costume. This is as close as I was able to get. It's not exactly it, but it's close enough to suggest the character. And there was this pretty awesome story called JSA: The Liberty Files, and it had pretty much a retro version of Batman into it. Essentially, it was a Batman set in the late 30s, early 40s. Pretty much a Batman set around World War II, same as with the rest of the Justice Society of America. There was three miniseries, and there were really good miniseries. If you've never tried them, I would strongly suggest you do that. It's called JSA: The Liberty Files, and there's three miniseries that explore that world. And then we have the Batman of Zirin Arm. It was a bit tricky to try to recreate that look, but that is close enough to sell the idea. Essentially, there was this story in the 60s where Batman goes to another planet called Planet X, and somehow there is a Batman on that planet as well, and he was known as the Batman of Zuranar. Later on, Grant Morrison reused that idea as some sort of psychic defenses that the Batman had in case he would be attacked psychically somehow. And then we have the Batman from Gotham by Gaslight. Technically, this was the very first Elseworld, although technically the Dark Knight Returns before that was an Elseworld. It just wasn't branded as Elseworld at the time. Gotham by Gaslight is pretty much what started the Elseworld branding, and retroactively, I guess the Dark Knight Returns pretty much became an Elseworld. This is as close as I was able to get to the look of the character, though. And then we have our friend, the evil Bizarro, which is essentially a reverse Batman. It's the Bizarro version of Batman, where he uses guns as opposed to Batman who refuses to use guns. And of course, Bizarro is the world's worst detective, and I think he's also the world's worst marksman. And then we have the Black Lantern Batman, which was seen in the pages of the Blackest Night comics. Essentially, the evil Black Hand brought back the Batman as a Black Lantern. Although in the end it wasn't really Batman, but that was a bit of a mess in terms of story, and it would require a whole video on its own to properly explain it. And then we have Batman of the Sinestro Corps. For a long time, it was pretty much only fan fiction. Essentially, there was a ring that tried to choose Batman as a Sinestro Corps member, but Batman rejected the ring. Although later in the New 52, they did have a storyline where Batman used the ring, but only ever so briefly, and it was only as a trick to try to summon the evil Sinestro. So we never really had a Batman of the Sinestro Corps per se. It is mostly something we saw in fan artwork and fan fiction. And of course, we have the Batman Beyond. I have to admit, when we first heard about them trying to make a teenage version of Batman, it was a weird idea. Many people didn't weren't too crazy about that. But then when we saw the show, holy crap! It was 10 kinds of awesome. It was like a mixture of young Spider-Man in high school mixed with the Batman, and the mixture of the two was pretty awesome, and it gave us a pretty awesome TV show that lasted 4 seasons. And there is the movie Return of the Joker. If you never saw that, you have to see it. It's an awesome movie. It was released straight to DVD, but holy crap, was it good! The animation, the story, everything was awesome in that movie. If you haven't seen him, you have to see it. And last, let's use our friend, the Desert Batman. You guys did seem to enjoy the video I did with this character not too long ago. There is many other incarnation of the character that I could have added to this video, but I tried to keep it from being a 3 hour long video. I could easily have made a video with each incarnation and explaining all the backstory and all that good stuff, but maybe some other time. So that's pretty much it for now, guys. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.